The story flips the moment rumors hit about a $1 million lawsuit, a lifetime TLC ban, and whispers of arrest tied to Andrei and Elizabeth. Not a loud breakup, not a tearful goodbye, a quiet freeze, content gone, doors closed, and a silence so clean it feels planned. This was never framed as a scandal on screen, yet off screen the fallout looks heavier than anything aired. Here is the part viewers were never meant to notice. For years, chaos played as entertainment. Shouting passed as passion. Walkouts passed as drama. But what did the network see long before fans started asking questions? And why does silence speak louder than any statement ever released? Most scandals fade, yet this one feels final in a way others never did. Because when a network stops talking, something bigger already happened. In my opinion, this story does not end with outrage or redemption. It ends with erasure. And once you see how quiet endings work, the earlier seasons feel different. The context behind this silence changes everything, and it starts much earlier than anyone remembers. The story flips the moment rumors hit about a $1 million lawsuit, a lifetime TLC ban, and whispers of arrest tied to Andrei and Elizabeth. Not a loud breakup, not a tearful goodbye, a quiet freeze, content gone, doors closed, and a silence so clean it feels planned. This was never framed as a scandal on screen, yet off screen the fallout looks heavier than anything aired. Here is the part viewers were never meant to notice. For years, chaos played as entertainment. Shouting passed as passion. Walkouts passed as drama. But what did the network see long before fans started asking questions? And why does silence speak louder than any statement ever released? Most scandals fade, yet this one feels final in a way others never did. Because when a network stops talking, something bigger already happened. In my opinion, this story does not end with outrage or redemption. It ends with erasure. And once you see how quiet endings work, the earlier seasons feel different. The context behind this silence changes everything, and it starts much earlier than anyone remembers. From the first season they appeared, Andrei and Elizabeth were never sold as calm. The show framed them as fire and friction. Raised voices, door slams, long silences after explosive fights, family dinners turning into battlegrounds. Every episode followed the same rhythm. Someone pushes, someone snaps, someone storms out. And viewers learned the pattern so well it stopped feeling alarming. Andrei's temper became part of the brand. The blunt tone, the control over conversations, the refusal to back down even when the room begged for peace. Elizabeth often stood between him and her family, translating anger into excuses. She would say he felt disrespected. He would say nobody trusted him. And the shouting would restart. Over time, fans stopped asking if this was healthy and started asking who would walk out first. There was humor baked into it too. Memes about Andrei yelling, jokes about Elizabeth crying in parking lots, recaps treating blow-ups like sports highlights. The chaos felt familiar, predictable, almost comforting in a strange way. That comfort hid patterns nobody wanted to name yet. Family conflict followed them everywhere. Her siblings clashing with him over money, her parents questioning his work ethic, Andrei responding with defiance instead of calm. Each argument ended the same way. Raised voice. Hard stare. Exit stage left. Sometimes Elizabeth followed, sometimes she stayed behind, apologizing for the scene. Viewers watched this cycle repeat season after season without pause. The walkouts became routine. When conversations got uncomfortable, they left. When questions got sharp, they shut down. At reunions, they sat tense, defensive, ready to bolt. Hosts tried to redirect. Cast members tried to reason. Nothing landed. The show played it as stubborn love, ride or die energy, us against them. Empathy still existed. Elizabeth looked exhausted more than angry. She cried often. She defended Andrei even when her voice shook. Fans split into camps. Some saw loyalty. Others saw denial. Both sides kept watching. Because once chaos feels familiar, Warning signs lose urgency. Andrei's control issues stayed front and center. He demanded respect yet rejected compromise. He framed every challenge as an attack. Elizabeth absorbed the emotional weight, smoothing edges, buffering conflict. She rarely challenged him publicly. When she did, tension doubled. Silence followed. Then, another blow-up. Production leaned into it. Arguments filled episodes. Trailers teased explosions. Confessionals replayed anger in slow motion. Viewers learned to expect volatility as part of the deal. Nobody talked about boundaries. Nobody talked about consequences. It stayed entertainment. Looking back, the signs were not hidden. Repeated escalation. No resolution. Relationships around them thinning out. Friends drifting. Family trust eroding. Each season raised the temperature, and nobody turned the dial down. Patterns do not feel dangerous while cameras frame them as content. The couple became familiar chaos. Predictable conflict. A known quantity. Fans stopped asking if things would change and started watching how far it would go. That shift matters, because normalizing behavior changes how long people tolerate it. Now rewind those seasons with fresh eyes. The shouting no longer feels playful. The walkouts no longer feel dramatic. They feel like avoidance. Control. Escalation without repair. The humor fades fast, and this brings up the question nobody asked out loud back then. Where did production stand while this played out year after year? And at what point did familiar chaos stop being safe for anyone involved? Networks love chaos, while chaos pays the bills. Loud couples pull ratings. Explosive reunions trend online. Clips spread fast. Advertisers stay calm while numbers climb. That formula works until it does not. When money flows, tolerance stretches. When money stalls or risk spikes, patience ends fast. Reality television runs on a simple balance. Drama brings attention. Attention brings revenue. But behind every season sits another calculation. Time lost. Shoots delayed. Extra staff brought in to manage tension. Travel plans shifted. None of this shows on screen. All of it hits budgets quietly. In my opinion, once costs creep higher than returns, everything changes. Here is the part viewers rarely hear. Insurance exists for production. Insurance hates unpredictability. Repeated disruptions raise flags. Safety reports pile up. Coverage gets reviewed. Premiums rise. Suddenly, a loud argument costs more than a viral clip earns. Gossip online treats chaos like free content. Networks see invoices. This is where entertainment turns into expense. Producers spend years absorbing stress for the sake of story. They patch scenes together, they redirect conversations, they smooth exits. But there comes a moment when control slips. Not on camera, off it. When walkouts stretch shoots into overtime. When tempers force shutdowns. When staff refuses certain setups. In my opinion, that moment marks a shift from storytelling to containment. Shutdowns hurt. Crews still get paid. Locations still cost money. Travel still runs. A single lost day ripples across schedules. Multiply that by repeated incidents, and the math stops working. Networks do not argue feelings. They review spreadsheets. This is why actions later feel cold. Not emotional. Not reactive. Strategic. Removing talent stops losses. Silence limits fallout. Quiet bans avoid headlines. In my opinion, punishment rarely drives these calls. Survival does. Once production loses control, the tone hardens overnight. Fans often assume networks protect stars at all costs. That belief holds until risk outweighs reward. Contracts include behavior rules, not for drama, for safety and scheduling. When those lines blur too often, enforcement follows. Not loudly, efficiently. Andrei and Elizabeth brought attention for years. Their conflict-filled episodes. Their tension anchored seasons. But patterns matter more than moments. When volatility repeats without resolution, unpredictability grows. Unpredictability scares insurers. Insurers scare executives. The shift shows up subtly. Fewer appearances, delayed announcements, missing spin-offs, no public goodbye. That absence speaks. In my opinion, networks erase liabilities instead of confronting them publicly. It protects the brand and limits questions. At that point, ratings stop offering protection. This reframes everything, not as a moral judgment, not as a personal attack, as a business decision. Chaos once sold well. Then chaos started costing more than it earned. The couple did not lose value overnight. The risk attached to them grew heavier than their draw. That is the hardest truth. Talent stays valuable only while manageable. Once unpredictability defines the package, the asset turns into a liability. Elizabeth's role in all of this has always been quieter, but no less complicated. On screen, she often appears caught in the middle, translating anger, smoothing conflict, and trying to keep peace between the people she loves most. Her loyalty is consistent. Season after season, she chooses her partner publicly, even when doing so isolates her from her family. For many viewers, that loyalty reads as strength. There is also another way people see it. Not as weakness, but as endurance. Elizabeth absorbs tension instead of redirecting it. When arguments escalate, she often steps in to calm things down, but rarely challenges the behavior itself. The outcome is predictable. The fight pauses. The pattern continues. In my opinion, this is where loyalty and accountability start pulling in opposite directions. Loyalty keeps relationships intact. Accountability forces change. Elizabeth's on-screen choices lean toward preservation. She explains Andrei's reactions. She frames conflict as misunderstanding. She shields him from full confrontation. That approach keeps the peace in the moment, but leaves the core issue untouched. Choosing peace in the moment can delay peace in the long run. To be fair, there are real pressures behind her decisions. Public confrontation invites backlash. Standing against your partner on camera reshapes your entire storyline. Elizabeth is also navigating family expectations, production pressure, and the weight of being watched. The safest move often looks like silence or soft defense. Many people would make the same choice. Fans split because they recognize themselves in her. Some see a woman standing by her marriage despite criticism. Others see someone carrying emotional labor alone. Both readings can be true at once. What matters more is the outcome those choices create. Over time, repeated defense changes perception. Viewers stop seeing mediation and start seeing enablement. Not because Elizabeth intends harm, but because the cycle never breaks. Arguments still escalate. Walkouts still happen. Tension remains unresolved. The absence of visible boundaries becomes part of the story. Silence can protect a relationship while quietly weakening trust around it. Elizabeth's emotional fatigue shows in small ways. Shorter responses. Tearful confessionals. Long pauses before answering hard questions. These moments hint at internal conflict that never fully surfaces. The show does not frame this as failure. It frames it as devotion. There is a fair counterpoint here. Accountability does not always work on camera. Public challenges can escalate situations rather than calm them. Elizabeth may believe private conversations are more effective. Viewers do not see what happens when cameras are off. That unknown space matters. But the pattern still leaves consequences. Family relationships strain. Support systems thin out. Fans grow frustrated. And when silence becomes the dominant response, people start filling gaps with their own conclusions. When explanations stop, assumptions rush in. This becomes important later, because when the couple fades from the screen without clarity, Elizabeth's long history of quiet defense works against her. Silence that once preserved peace now looks like avoidance. Loyalty that once felt admirable starts feeling complicit to some viewers. Trust erodes not because of one decision, but because of many small ones layered over time. In my opinion, this is the unseen cost of standing by without visible boundaries. Not immediate fallout, gradual doubt. And once doubt settles in, rebuilding trust becomes far harder than defending loyalty ever was. The disappearance did not come with a statement. No headline confirming a departure. No reunion explanation. No farewell episode tying up loose ends. One season they were there, loud and central. The next, they were simply gone. That absence felt louder than any announcement ever could. Silence works differently than denial. Denial invites debate. Silence closes doors. In my opinion, this is why networks choose it. When nothing is said, nothing can be challenged. Stories do not gain oxygen. Questions linger, but answers never form into something actionable. Edited arcs tell part of the story. Storylines begin and then quietly vanish. Confessionals disappear. Expected follow-ups never air. Reunions move on without addressing missing faces. Viewers notice, but the show keeps its pace. The machine does not slow down for individual narratives. When a story vanishes mid-sentence, it is not an accident. No reunions mean no confrontation. No goodbyes mean no accountability on screen. Silence removes the platform where explanations could backfire. In my opinion, this is not about hiding truth. It is about limiting exposure. Networks manage risk by shrinking the space where questions can live. For viewers, this creates confusion. Longtime fans invested years watching the same conflicts repeat. Emotional investment builds expectation. When that expectation goes unanswered, it feels unsettling. People search for clues in episodes, social media, and old interviews. The absence becomes the story. Silence invites speculation while avoiding responsibility. From the network's perspective, quiet endings protect more than reputations. They protect the brand. Public explanations lock networks into narratives they cannot fully control. Silence keeps options open. It prevents headlines. It avoids legal entanglements. It allows the franchise to move forward without dragging unresolved baggage behind it. This approach also sends a message internally. Cast members learn what happens when volatility crosses a line, not through warnings, through erasure. In my opinion, that lesson lands harder than any public statement ever could. The ripple effects spread quietly. Casting changes. Tighter contracts. Faster intervention when conflicts escalate. Less patience for unpredictable behavior. Viewers may not connect these shifts to one couple, but patterns in the industry reflect learned lessons. Every quiet ending reshapes how future chaos gets handled. The unsettling part is how permanent silence feels. Loud exits leave room for comebacks. Apologies. Redemption arcs. Quiet disappearances do not. Once a storyline is erased, it rarely returns. The absence becomes the final chapter. For fans, this is frustrating. Closure matters. Explanations feel deserved, but networks prioritize stability over sentiment. Silence draws a line without drawing attention to it. And that is the warning buried inside quiet endings. They do not fade with time. They settle. They harden. They become permanent in a way loud scandals never are. The fallout did not stop with one couple. Andrei and Elizabeth were loud, chaotic, and unforgettable on screen. Off screen, allegedly, their actions triggered a quiet overhaul. Production teams began tightening rules. Behavior clauses became stricter. What once earned a shrug now demanded immediate attention. Networks learned fast. Filming delays, walkouts, and crew complaints no longer got shrugged off. Alleged threats or escalations now went straight to legal teams instead of producers trying to mediate. The tolerance for chaos shrank. In my opinion, this was not punishment. It was survival. The franchise could no longer risk entertainment turning into liability. When volatility stops being profitable, it becomes dangerous. Andrei and Elizabeth now exist as the cautionary tale. Not as villains, not as heroes, but as the example every cast member will quietly be reminded of. Networks watch for the patterns they displayed: aggression, repeated walkouts, public contradictions, and enabling behavior. These were the behaviors that, allegedly, forced the network to act decisively. Fans might wonder, could it have been prevented? Could warning signs have mattered if addressed differently? If you've been following, you know viewers noticed tension long before consequences became public. Yet the escalation still reached a point where rules changed forever. Every drama now comes with a question. Is this thrilling or risky? The ripple effects extend to casting decisions. Future seasons are likely to favor stability over spectacle. Predictable reactions, measured conflicts, and personalities that can be contained safely on camera will likely be prioritized. The franchise still thrives on drama, but now it is curated and monitored more closely than ever before. Even social media strategies adjust. Cast members who push boundaries too far may find themselves quietly phased out rather than given a redemption storyline. The consequences of one couple's trajectory affect every contract and behavior guideline. When a story ends in silence, the lessons echo across the whole franchise. Viewers might ask themselves, how much drama is too much? How far can conflict go before it stops being entertaining? And what does it mean for couples who hope their relationships will survive under constant scrutiny? These questions now frame the way the show unfolds. By the time production wraps on a season, the stakes are different. Internal reviews, legal escalations, and risk management happen in parallel with the cameras. Cast members who were once allowed to push limits now face a system less forgiving. The larger takeaway is simple. Volatility can be profitable until it crosses an invisible line. Once that happens, the rules change. Andrei and Elizabeth serve as the proof. Their story is not just theirs, it shapes how the franchise handles everyone who follows. And for future seasons, the question lingers. Who will be thrilling enough to keep us watching, but safe enough to avoid the fate of Andrei and Elizabeth? The cameras capture the shouting, the walkouts, the explosive moments, but what happens when that chaos sticks with people long after the lights go out? On screen, Andrei and Elizabeth were a roller coaster, loud and unpredictable. Off screen, allegedly, the constant tension reshaped everyone involved. It isn't just the couple who feels it. Crew, other cast members, even viewers start to absorb the stress. When arguments spiral publicly, control shifts from relationships to reputation. Every word, every gesture becomes permanent. Fans watch thinking they understand, but what they see is a fraction. Allegedly, behind closed doors, the fallout spreads quietly, affecting trust and connections that were once solid. Elizabeth's loyalty, Andrei's aggression, the enabling patterns, they all leave invisible marks. Chaos leaves fingerprints you can't erase. Once lines are crossed in public, everyone loses something. Trust fractures. Friendships shift. Careers wobble. Networks tighten their grip. The drama that was supposed to entertain now carries consequences that cannot be edited out. Even intentions become hard to untangle. Elizabeth may have acted out of concern or love. Andrei may have thought he was asserting himself. Fans interpret motives differently. But the outcome is the same. Relationships and reputations are altered permanently. Social media reacts with intensity. Comments, theories, debates, they amplify the emotional cost. Every heated post and viral clip reminds viewers that public exposure has a price. The line between entertainment and real harm blurs, and sometimes the very act of witnessing it changes how you see people, choices, and consequences. The loops planted at the start now circle back. What did TLC know for years? Allegedly, enough to worry about legal exposure and staff safety. Why does silence matter more than statements? Because when networks erase without explanation, the damage lingers in quiet. How does this story end differently than past scandals? The answer is in the permanence of absence, the careers stalled, and the friendships fractured. For viewers, it is hard not to reflect. If a couple's behavior can reshape policies, shift casting, and silence an entire narrative, what does that say about human behavior under pressure? And what does it say about the cost of speaking truths or allegations on a public stage? Every reaction, every defense, every public moment adds weight. The consequences are cumulative, often far beyond the original spark. Once drama becomes public, it leaves a trail that touches everyone in the room and everyone watching. Elizabeth and Andrei's saga shows that entertainment is temporary, but emotional fallout is long-lasting. Friendships break, loyalties are questioned, reputations are altered. Even fans who have only followed online feel the shift. Every viewer becomes a witness to the irreversible consequences of crossing lines in the glare of cameras. The tension remains unresolved because the story does not offer neat closure. Absence replaces explanations, silence overshadows reconciliations, and the networks move forward while individuals navigate what's left behind. What started as reality TV spectacle becomes a quiet lesson on how chaos, when allowed to spill into public and professional spaces, reshapes lives. And just when you think the story might settle, the questions remain. Who rebuilds trust? And can anything ever truly return to what it was before the cameras captured the chaos? The story that started with whispers of $1 million lawsuit, a lifetime ban, and possible arrests now lands with a heavier weight. What seemed like just drama on screen was allegedly a chain reaction behind the scenes, shaping careers, friendships, and even the rules of the franchise itself. Silence, it turns out, was never neutral. It was the network protecting itself, while chaos quietly burned out of control. The patterns we laughed at, the walkouts we rolled our eyes at, suddenly make sense in a darker light. Ratings may have soared while Andrei and Elizabeth raged, but once liability outpaced profit, the game changed. Networks no longer tolerated volatility for entertainment. Allegedly, what was once thrilling became too dangerous to ignore, and the consequences were irreversible. Friendships fractured, trust eroded, and reputations took hits that no confessionals or edits could repair. The loops we've followed from the start connect now. TLC knew, their silence mattered, and this scandal ends differently from anything viewers have seen before. Yet, one question lingers. What else happened off camera that even the insiders haven't shared? What did the cameras never catch? And how much of this story is still buried in the archives? And as Andrei and Elizabeth fade from the franchise, their impact lingers, shaping the rules and boundaries for every cast member who comes after. Next, we'll look at another shocking split in the franchise, how one friendship exploded on screen and left the network scrambling, proving again that reality TV is never just about what you see. The question is, will those involved survive the fallout, or are we witnessing another permanent fracture? Stay tuned, because this story takes everything you think you know about loyalty, drama, and consequences and flips it upside down.